Hello everyone, I am the Unity Dude, and in this quick tutorial I'm going to show you how to create tabs in the Unity UI system. The UI assets I will be using in this video are Casual Game GUI by Layer Lab. I have added the link for this asset in the description of the video. So let's get started with the tutorial. I have an empty scene in which the first thing I'm going to do is create a new UI canvas. I'm going to name this canvas Tab Menu, and I'm going to set its scaling mode to scale with screen size. Next, let's quickly add a background image. Stretch this image across the whole screen. And after this, we will add another image as the background of our tabs window. Change the source image, the size, and the position of the tabs window as required. After this, we will create empty objects for all of our required tabs inside this tab background image. In this tutorial, my window will have 3 tabs, so I'm going to create 3 empty objects here, and I'm going to name these objects tab 1, tab 2, and tab 3. Once we have our tab objects ready, we can start adding UI elements to these tabs. In this tutorial, the first tab is going to be for the graphics settings. So let's quickly add a few labels, drop-downs, and checkboxes we would see in a graphics settings tab. Once our graphics tab is ready, disable this tab and write the UI elements for the other 2 tabs. The second tab is going to be for the audio settings. Here I'm just going to add a few sliders and checkboxes. And the third tab is going to be for the controls. Here I will add a few images and labels to make it look like a rebinding menu for our controls. And our 3 tab objects are now ready with all the user interface. Next, let's add the buttons at the top with which we can switch to these tabs. Create a new button and position it at the top of the tab window. Change the size and the image of the button as required. I'm going to replace the text of the button with an image icon. And here in the hierarchy, we want to place the buttons above the tab window so that the buttons are hidden behind this window and they look as if they are a part of the tabs menu. Duplicate this button to create 2 more buttons for the audio tab and the settings tab. Position them and change the icons as required. And now you want to change the background image of the inactive tab buttons so that we know which tab is active. Our user interface is now ready. Let's add code to make these tabs work as we want them to. Create a new script on the tabs menu which we will call the tabs manager. Open up this new script, and here start by adding the Unity UI library. Next, let's add the variables to reference all the objects in our menu. We will need the reference of the 3 tab objects we want to enable and disable. We will also need the reference of the background images of the tab buttons. By changing these images, we will show which tab is active and which tabs are not active. Next, we need the sprites, which we will set as the images of these active and inactive buttons. Also, let's add vector 2s for changing the size of the buttons. And now let's create the function for switching the tabs. This function will take an integer parameter, which will be the tab we want to switch to. In the function, we will start by disabling all the tabs and then enabling the required tab. After this, change the image of all the tab buttons to inactive tab image. Also, set the size of all the buttons to inactive tab button size. And after this, we will set the image and the size of the active tab button. And that's pretty much it for the code. Let's go back to Unity and assign the references to the script. Assign the reference for the 3 tab objects, the tab buttons, the inactive tab button background, the active tab button background. And now let's set the sizes for the inactive and the active tab buttons. For the active tab, let's set the size to 240 by 180, which will be larger than the inactive tabs. And for the inactive tab buttons, we will use a smaller size, which will be 220 by 130. Next, let's assign the function to the on-click of the three buttons. The first button will take us to tab 0, the second button will take us to tab 1, and the third button will take us to tab 2. And we are all done. Let's test our code to see if everything is working just as we want it to. And as we can see, the tabs menu is now working perfectly just as we want it to. That's it for the tutorial. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe.